Hello. This is a short video that I wanted to make for artist friends about something that I've discovered fairly recently, which is AI-generated art. So this all started with this image, which appeared in my social media feed. And that's an image by Jason Allen, who won first prize in the summer of 2022 at the Colorado State Fair. And he was one of 21 emerging artists who had submitted work for the digitally manipulated photography part of the contest. And he won first prize and $300 cash prize. And he was pretty open about what he had used, and it mentioned Mid-Journey as the tool he had used to generate this art. But it seems like the judges were not aware that Mid-Journey is actually a neural network that generates artwork from a description given in English of a particular scene. So that's where I got really interested in figuring out first how to use it, and second how it works. So that's what I'd like to do today, is give you an idea of how neural networks can generate something like this only from a description in English. So it doesn't only generate paintings, but it can also generate something like this, which is, it looks like a photograph, but it's not a photograph really. There was never a camera to take this, the face of this old man. It was simply generated by, again, a description. And so that man never really existed, that photograph never existed. It's a kind of a fusion of thousands of images that the neural network had been trained with. So there are several of them, several neural networks, also called artificial intelligence or AI, available today. And I'm using mostly Mid-Journey and Dall-e 2 in this presentation. But there's also Crayon and Stable Diffusion, among others. And Stable Diffusion is interesting because it's open source and you can download it to your computer. So you don't really need to have an account with anything in order to use it. So I'm going to use this example throughout. It's one that you find associated with Mid-Journey. And so this image is that of an astronaut riding a horse, and it was generated by Mid-Journey. What is interesting here is to see that this astronaut, interestingly, looks like he has, or she has, 3 arms. And what we're going to see is that neural networks are not necessarily good at fully understanding anatomy and particular details about size relationships. However, this image is quite good. You can see that the human being, the astronaut, is very well represented in terms of his or her size compared to that of the horse. The other thing that I was really surprised and been surprised since many times since then is that if you look at the illumination of this horse, the sun is really from the back to the left, top left of the image. And so you can see the shadows being casted here. Same thing for the astronaut. You see the shadow here. What is also interesting is that this part of the horse is in the shade, which casted by the astronaut. So the AI is quite good at understanding illumination, location of the source of light, and also in some cases reflections. When some objects are fairly bright and shiny, the AI will create reflections of other objects in the room or the environment, which is quite amazing. And so this was generated only from this description, a photograph of an astronaut riding a horse. That's all that is required in order to generate this image. Nothing else, that English description, these words. So I'm going to show you how I generated a similar image using Dall-e 2. So this is a pre-recorded movie. I'm going to make it start. And it's a web page. You access Dall-e through a web page, and then there's a bar where you enter a description. And here it's a very simple description. Typically, they're much longer. And it takes, this is real time, so it's going to take very short amount of time for it to generate 4 images. So it usually generates 4 different images for you to pick, and then you can either select one and move on, or and in this movie I'm showing the different images that were generated with various amount of quality. This one is amazing because the AI understood that the horse could be on the moon and we could have the Earth showing in the back. And here what I'm doing is that I'm adding some extra keywords: realistic material, art station, hyper detail, very detailed. And then if you know what particular tags will be good for generating more details, you can add them and you get something that is richer and more sophisticated. So some of these are now the same prompt with additional details required. And you'll see that the horses are not necessarily well rendered, but quite interesting. So here I've asked for a variation on one particular image, and it's going to generate variations on that. And you see how quickly you can go from this, which was the original, to that variation 1, variation 2, variation 3, or variation 4. So quite interesting. And so that's this part. This is a photo of Betty White. Actually, it's not a photo. It's an AI-generated image of Betty White. So you see that the AI also understands some of these well-known people, because in the photos that have been used to train the network include a lot of publicly available photos, and of course, famous people will be included, and there'll be thousands of these photos. What I want to show you here is that this is the description that was given in order to get this. So you see things like cinematic lighting, volumetric lighting, ethereal light, intricate details, extremely detailed volumetric rays, extremely muddy face, Betty White caked in black mud and blue war paint test. Creative. So these are the 2 dashes here are kind of keywords for the AI, and really select a particular type of computation. So there's a lot to learn here for somebody to generate something like that. This is not out of the box. You need to do, so there's there's going to be some training to be done for human beings to understand all the possible keywords that the AI would have seen when it was fed all these images. All right, so there's 2 different things that are at play when a neural network will take a prompt like the ones that I've just shown and generate an image. So the first part is called the diffusion method or model. And it's what it does is that you take the image of a cat, very sharp image of a cat, and then you blur it somehow. And this is the blurred image by kind of randomly changing pixels throughout the image. Then you train a neural network to go from this image to that image, back to the original. So basically, it's the same as if you've edited your photos, the same as Photoshop, putting back or removing the noise. Or Topaz Lab is an AI that photographers use to make their images sharper. So that's that process at work here. So there's nothing new here. But what is interesting is that if you're good at going from here to here, so what you can try to do is to blur the image some more and train the neural network to go from here back to here. And therefore, you should be able to go from here to there because you already have a neural network that is good at going from some noise to sharp. So more noise to some noise, and then you continue the process. So you train the network to go from a completely random collection of pixels, multicolor, to something that looks like that, and therefore you're going to go back to a cat. So it has to understand that you want a cat. So that's the second part of what we need to do. So to summarize here, we know how to train neural networks to go from a very random collection of pixels to a sharp image, as long as it knows what kind of animal you want here. So that's, these networks have been trained to do that. That's a diffusion model. So the second part is called the foundation model. And that's because we human beings have been extremely prolific at sharing on the web thousands and millions of images along with the description for each one. And that could be Instagram, and that could be web pages. Anyway, there are millions of publicly available images that have been tagged. And what I mean by tag is that they've been associated with words. For example, an image like this could have been associated with the word cat, the word orange, the word tabby, which I didn't have here, or feline, and all kinds of other words that would describe this, like the cat is awake, or the cat is looking at something. Similarly for the horse, with different kinds of attributes, or going back to the astronaut, we have many photos of astronauts, and so this image will very likely show up somewhere with next to it the words astronaut, moon, photo, NASA, maybe 1969, because this one is on the moon. So neural networks have been trained at association. So basically what the foundation model does is a lot of associations between images and tags. And Dall-e 2, for example, has been trained with over 2 million images, 2.5 million images. So when you put these two together, the foundation model and diffusion model, then you merge that very intelligently. You can provide a random image with a description, and then you're going to come up with something that will hopefully respond to that prompt. And you can see how you can generate different variations. All you have to do is to come up with a different random set of pixels. So different random set of pixels will give you a different variation. The model will try to, it's a little bit like human beings looking at the clouds and trying to figure out if somebody says, oh, I see a cat in the cloud. Well, you're going to look at the cloud and going to try to figure out, whether you recognize a cat somewhere. So the AI is going to do something very similar with these random pixels. So, do I recognize a horse somewhere? And little by little it will, but depending on what random image the AI starts with, it's going to come up with different kind of horses that it has seen or that it knows how to put together. So here's an example that illustrates the diffusion process. And when you use Midjourney, what is really cool is that it shows you the different process. So you see that this astronaut on the horse starts very blurry, and little by little, the AI is going to add more details to it. It's going to come up closer and closer to the final image. And so here I sped up this process a little bit. It takes a little longer for that particular case, but it's really amazing to see that it went from something very blurry to that this is the final four. And what you see here again, which is something that I kind of like actually, is that this horse has 3 legs. There's these 2, and then there's a ghost of 1 leg here. So the AI is not quite good at understanding anatomy once again. This horse, the AI, well, first, the horse is the same size as the human being. She's not quite right. And then the legs are really messed up here. So there's something not working quite well. But, it could be the, representation of a dream. And so there's that dream quality of Midjourney that is amazing. This looks like a horse, but actually it's not a horse. And that one, we don't really know what it is. It's kind of a strange animal being, with a human being on top of it. So that's the final 4 in a bigger format. So the question that you may have is that who owns an image generated by the AI? And right now the answer is that you do, because it's unique. That image is unique. It's not a copy of any single photo. It's kind of the amalgam of thousands of photos that the AI will have seen and merged together in a unique way that is not really reproducible. So the answer is you own it. So the next question you may have is it copyrightable? Can I hold the copyright of something that I generated with Midjourney, say? And the answer is, it depends. For example, this is the first time that artwork generated by an AI was copyrighted. It's a graphic novel created by a young artist called Chris Castanova. It's an 18-page graphic novel. and the copyright was granted in September 2022. And because the author used the AI or edited the result from the AI. For example, I truly believe that what the artist did was to use the background, use the AI to generate the background, and she superimposed the main character that looks like she was painted, graphically with a tablet, very likely. It's very hard for an AI to have, faces that look the same from one generation to the next. So very likely what she did was to generate the backgrounds for all these images and then cut them appropriately to fit the page. So this graphic novel has been copyrighted. It's 18 page. I have the PDF. You can download it from the web. Very, very rich background, very interesting science fiction. The science fiction feel is quite high. However, if you take the output of an AI, do not modify it, and you submit it for copyright, that will be rejected. Somebody attempted to do that. So it seems like the rule right now is that if a human being has somehow modified the output by hand, the output of the AI, then that can be copyrighted. So this graphic novel has been copyrighted. So something interesting that you can do that Dall-e does, Dall-e 2 does, but Midjourney doesn't, is that it's called outpainting. So what you can do is you can take an image, upload it to the server, Dall-e 2 server, and in this case, that's the girl with the pearl earring. And then you define a frame overlapping this painting, and you ask the AI to come up with a replacement for the white part, the missing part. So this is why it's called outpainting. We're going to ask the AI to paint outside the original image. But if you provide the right tags, if you say that it's a Vermeer, and therefore we want to see something similar to Vermeer when he painted the inside of a house, the 1600s, and many other details, then the AI will be able to put together something that could be fairly good in terms of representing what the room where this young woman is looked like. So let's play this. So you see that the AI generates 4 different possible missing parts, and then the artist here who is playing with Dall-e is picking one particular variation, and then little by little tiles the whole image with the missing parts, the possible missing parts, in a way that matches or could match the actual environment for this young woman. So that's, from this, we were able to go to that. Who knows? But this is something that is interesting, and so you can see, that artists will be quite interested in using something like this to start on a project, have ideas. At the same time, this is a disruptive new technology where a lot of illustrators and painters may lose jobs. For example, in the publicity world, instead of asking somebody to spend a day painting some particular scene for a product, then somebody can generate one in a few seconds. So it's a very new disruptive technology that is coming. So I did a presentation of this at a friend's house, a very good friend, Steve here, and I always thought Steve had a look very similar to that of what Santa Claus could look like. So I decided to play a little joke on Steve, and so what I did is that I uploaded his image, and then inside the server I removed everything except the face of Steve. So basically I erased the hand, the background, the wall, the shirt. So all we had was a little bit of the beard. So if you follow my mouse here, I just cut the face like this. And so all we could see was just Steve's face, and everything around was white. And I asked the AI, please generate Santa Claus with a red hat, with white fur on it, with a red coat, on a sleigh, surrounded by green elves. And I let the AI go, and it generated 7 different variations, and the ones that I thought were the most interesting are these. So thank you, Steve, for being a participant without actually knowing that I was doing this. But again, what I find really fantastic is that the AI was able to complement the image by adding hair, fitting the original, whatever was there from the original picture, and added more hair. And the beard here, for example, is continued from the original photo quite nicely. It's the same with the hair. If we go back to Steve's original hair, it's quite short on that side. However, the AI made it longer there. Similarly, look here, the hair is fairly long. Originally, not that much. So the AI is able to understand the characteristic of a human face enough to add very interesting details here. So you may ask, who is this guy here? And the answer is, I have no idea how come this showed up. But I think the terms green elf somehow is associated with a photo of this man or several photos of this particular man. Maybe he was an actor in a movie. I don't know, but it just showed up. And why this duck? I don't know either. But we see the red coat, we see the Santa hat, same here, and you see here that this is a pretty cheap Santa hat, whereas this one looks a little more expensive, similar that the color is definitely richer. Blurred background, very interesting, blurred background. So here we see that the AI was able to understand that that was the center figure, and these were in the back of this human being, and therefore blurred these, whereas this is fairly close to the same level as the human being and is sharp. So quite amazing. So that's the end of my video, but just want to reiterate that this is the beginning of something new. We're seeing it now with images, but Google is working on videos. So we believe that in a year, in summer of 2023, we'll be able to generate short videos just from a description, just from a prompt. And music is already there. You can download AI-generated music that you can use for free for, say, your YouTube video. So it's not terribly exciting music yet, but it's enough to put as background music when you want to show some images, say, in a YouTube video. So that's it. I hope this was informative, and I had fun doing this. I'm still exploring this. I finding it fascinating, and playing with it. This is a rabbit hole, so be careful. If you're interested in going there, you may not come back to the real world in a while.